Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. The title of today's lesson is Teach Them What We Want Them to Learn and Know. Once again, the title of this lesson is entitled Teach Them What We Want Them to Learn and Know. Many of our people are walking after idols because they don't know any different. No one has ever taught them any different. They are not learned in exactly which way it is that they should go. So many of our people may not be walking after idolatry in defiance. Some of them are just doing it in ignorance. There are a few that are doing it in defiance even after hearing the words of this law. However, that is not the case with all Israelites, nor is it the case with all of the strangers. So the purpose of the house of Israel is to bring forth the praise of the Most High, to bring forth the law of the Most High, and for the house of Israel to know, and for the stranger to know that which is righteous, it must be taught. So therefore, we must teach them what we want them to know and what we want them to learn. And that is our responsibility. So once again, brace yourselves, tighten up your jaws. Do not turn to the left or to the right, or you will get hit in the mouth. We are to walk the straight and narrow way of the Most High's commandments. We're not to deviate from this thing. So we must teach them what we want them to learn and know. All right, let's begin with Exodus chapter 2. Exodus chapter 2, and we will begin at verse 11. Exodus chapter 2, verse 11. We will deal with Moshe as he was raised up to deliver our people from the hands of the Egyptians. So therefore, we must lead. A leader must teach. All right. Verse 11 of Exodus chapter 2 reads, And it came to pass in those days when Moshe was grown that he went out into the field unto his brethren and looked upon their burdens. And he spied an Egyptian smiting an Hebrew, one of his brethren. And he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. So Moses saw an Egyptian beating up on an Israelite. Moshe killed him. And when he went out the second day, behold, two men of the Hebrews strove together. Two brothers were arguing. And he said unto him that did the wrong, Wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? So two Israelites are arguing. One Israelite hits another. Moses sees this. So he goes over to the one that did the wrong and said, Hey, why did you hit your brother? And he said, Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me as thou killest the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, Surely this thing is known. So Moshe intervened on two brothers, two Israelites that were arguing, after one struck the other. And the brother realized, hey, this is Moshe. And Moshe killed an Egyptian. So he's like, well, the common saying that we use nowadays is, who died and made you God? That's what we kind of tell our fellow Israelites nowadays. It's the same thing that you're seeing here. So who made you a king and a prince over us? What are you going to do? You're going to kill me like you killed that Egyptian? So what you're seeing is the strife in the house of Israel. And you will see this strife even with the men who decide to lead our people. And anyone that leads our people has to do it with a double-edged sword, because he must fight his enemies and he must also fight his own people, the enemies that are within. So we see here clearly that Moshe is dealing with these issues pertaining to the children of Israel, even when he comes to their defense, and they are aware that he came in their defense, yet they are in defiance against him. Let's move over to verse 23 of the same chapter, Exodus chapter 2. Let's read verse 23, 24, and 25. Verse 23 reads, "And it came to pass in the process of time that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up unto Yah by reason of the bondage." So the children of Israel, the hardships of Egypt caused us to cry out. It was too much for us to bear. And when we cried out, it came unto Yah. Here we are in the midst of the many nations right now. We're being beaten up, shot down, disrespected, incarcerated, etc. I'm not telling you anything that you do not know. I'm not telling you anything that you do not experience day to day. So these are curses that we are very much aware of. And we are turning day by day. We are lifting our hands in prayer. We are facing Jerusalem upon our knees, and we are crying out to the Most High to have mercy upon us in these lands. As we return back unto him and we cry out unto him in righteousness and in truth by walking in his law, he will certainly hear us and he will certainly heal us. Verse 24, "And Yah heard their groaning, and Yah remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob." Once again, as we cry out and we do it in the manner that we were instructed, and we walk in the path that we were instructed, the Most High will then hear us, and the Most High will then heal us. So you will see a disruption in the earth of the status quo as the children of Israel begin to realize who they are. And they decide to realize, and they do realize who our God is. And we learn how to pray. And we begin to walk in righteousness, and we begin to pray correctly. Then we will see the results of the Most High's works. So therefore, we are to cry out to him and do that which is right in his sight, and we're going to see results. Verse 25, "And Yah looked upon the children of Israel, and Yah had respect unto them." You will not read where the Most High had respect unto anyone else, but you will read here clearly where the Most High had respect unto the children of Israel. We are his sons and daughters. We have just been estranged from him because we have gone off course. Simple as that. So let's continue to lift our hands in prayer, face Jerusalem, cry out to the Most High for the strife and the affliction that we're seeing in the midst of these nations, and he will hear us and he will heal us from this affliction. Let's move over to Exodus chapter 3, one chapter down, and we will read verse 7 through 11. Exodus chapter 3, verse 7. And verse 7 reads, "And Yah said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people, which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows." So the Most High, he is seeing the affliction. Of course he is, because he has caused it. He has scattered us into this nation, or placed us in this nation, for us to go through all of these things. So none of these things that are happening is new to him. All right, so these taskmasters are nothing but Israelites who are eating the enemy's bread or eating the enemy's meat. Okay, these are men of Israel who are in cahoots or in allegiance with their enemies. And in the many nations in which we have been scattered, there are many taskmasters, aka sellouts, enemies of our people, who will sit at the table of our enemies, and they will not poison the food. They are enemies unto us. All right. Excuse me. "And I am come down to deliver," this is verse 8 of Exodus chapter 3. "And I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land unto a good land, and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites. and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. All right, so we have just read here clearly where the Most High stated that he came down to deliver us out of the hands of the Egyptians. So the Most High has always dwelt in the midst of his people, especially when we are in the wilderness. So the Most High is stating that he came down in order to be of assistance to Moshe. For Moshe is the intercessor that will deliver us. So the Most High has been here before, to which he spoke with his people and has been in the midst of his people. He didn't need to make himself into someone else and come down and die and all the other nonsense that you have been reading or that you were taught. Verse 9, now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also heard the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. So all of the oppression that we have experienced throughout the diaspora, it is not unnoticed by the Most High. The Most High made it plain that he has the house of Israel engraved in the palm of his hand. So all that we are experiencing, it's nothing strange to him. It is the Most High that brought us into the land of our enemies. It is the Most High that has placed a spirit upon our enemies to treat us the way that we're being treated in these lands. So therefore, if we're looking for any relief from the way that we are being treated by our enemies, we must turn to the Most High, because it is his spirit upon them that causes them to act in this fashion. This we must be aware of. Verse 10, come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. Verse 11, and Moses said unto Yah, who am I, that I should go unto Pharaoh, and that I should bring forth the children of Israel out of Egypt? So what Moshe is doing here, Moshe is being told that he is going to bring these people up out of the land of Egypt. And he is, in more ways than one, being rebellious. Why me? Who am I to go in here and talk to this Pharaoh and to deliver these people? So this is not a job that he is seeking to do. All right. So sometimes in the midst of our people, many of us are not willing to lead. Many of our people, when offered an opportunity to lead, they will sit back, hands crossed, and will not lead this people. And soon as a man decides to step forward and say, you know what, I will pick up that mantle, I will lead, then you have 100 men who were given that opportunity, refuse to do it. When that one man steps forth and says, I will lead these people, I will carry this mantle, then you've got 100 brothers who want to be in opposition to him, when they had that same opportunity to step forth and lead this people. They will be his greatest critics, and they will seek to derail whatever vehicle that he is leading, and they will undermine him in every way. When these same exact men had the opportunity to lead, they did not, or chose not to, but they at every turn will criticize and attack the leader. So once you decide to be a leader of the house of Israel, you have to deal with the rebels and the transgressors. And the Most High will strengthen you once you pick up this mantle to teach, that you may be able to deal with these rebels and deal with these transgressors, because we've got them a dime a dozen. All right. So we see here where Moshe pretty much is wondering, well, why me? Okay, wondering why he should go and speak to Pharaoh. All right, Exodus, let's move now. We're still in Exodus chapter 3. Let's move to verse 16, and we will read verse 16 through 21. And verse 16 of Exodus chapter 3 reads, go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say unto them, The strength of your fathers, the strong one of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I have surely visited you, and seen that which is done to you in Egypt. So the Most High wanted Moshe to go gather the elders, and he wanted him to commune with the elders, to let the elders know that he is aware of all that's transpiring in Egypt and all of the affliction that we're being uh, put through in that land. Verse 17, and I have said, I will bring you out, or bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt into the land of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, unto a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall hearken to thy voice, and thou shalt come, thou and the elders of Israel, unto the king of Egypt, and ye shall say unto him, the strong one of the Hebrews have met with us, and now let us go, we beseech thee, 3 days' journey into the wilderness, that we may sacrifice to Yah our strength. So the elders of Israel, as well as Moshe, went before the Pharaoh and asked the Pharaoh to let us go, that we may serve the Most High, and that we needed to go 3 days distance, or 3 days journey into the wilderness, by which we can serve the Most High. And of course, the Pharaoh was not having any of that. All right, verse 19. And I am sure that the king of Egypt will not let you go, no, not by a mighty hand. Verse 20. And I will stretch out my hand and smite Egypt with all my wonders, which I will do in the midst thereof. And after that he will let you go. Verse 21. And I will give this people favor in the sight of the Egyptians. And it shall come to pass that when ye go, ye shall not go empty. So here we were in the land of Egypt, being oppressed. And the Most High had stretched forth his hand and has plagued the entire land of Egypt. And because they were destroyed and there was no might in their hand, that is the only reason why the Pharaoh decided to let us go. And even when he did it with despiteful mind. I'm going to let you go now, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to come chase after you in a short while. So it was not done in integrity of heart. It was not done in sincerity, nor was it done in righteousness. Now, a similar type of scenario we're dealing with here in the midst of the heathen. Instead of us being scattered into one nation, we're scattered into all the nations of the earth. So now the cry that has gone up to the Most High pertaining to our oppression, pertaining to the injustice and the unrighteousness that we are dealt each and every day. Instead of just Egypt being punished, all of the other nations are going to be punished. And just like when we left out of Egypt, we did not go empty. When we leave out of these many nations, we will not be leaving empty. It will be similar to coming out of Egypt. When we leave here, all of the gold, the silver, and all of the precious metals that they have in their storehouses, they will have to bring that in tow as we are delivered back onto the land that was promised unto our forefathers. So we are by no means leaving this place, these many nations, empty-handed, nor are we returning back, quote unquote, broke. Okay? All right, let's move over to Exodus chapter 4, one chapter over, and let's read verse 1. Moshe, after being tasked to lead this people, Moshe is trying to find a way out. He really doesn't want to do it. All right, so let's deal with Moshe and him trying to find a way out. Let's deal with chapter 4, verse 1 of Exodus chapter 4, Exodus chapter 4, verse 1, and it reads, And Moses answered and said, But behold, they will not believe me, nor hearken unto my voice, for they will say that Yah hath not appeared unto thee. So Moshe is thinking of all the negatives before he actually go ahead and do exactly what he's instructed to do. He's thinking of all the bad results first. Instead of just saying, okay, I've got this instruction. Let me go to this people and deliver this message to them. And then if they say this, then he could come back to the Most High and say, well, I did what you told me, but they were in rebellion to what I instructed them to do. No, he was already thinking of all the negatives before he had even carried out the instruction. So if you're a man of Israel, our job and our purpose is to teach people what we want them to learn. And what we are to teach them is the righteousness of the Most High. We're to teach him his covenant, his laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and we are to encourage them to walk in it. Now, if you, before you begin that journey, and before you begin to teach, if your first thought is, well, they're not going to listen to me anyway. Well, why talk to these Christians? Why talk to these Romans? They're not going to listen to me anyway. They believe in JC, and they're not going to hear what I have to say. So therefore, I'm not going to take the time to teach them what I want them to learn. So I'm just going to go ahead and pray and do all the things that I know to do by myself in my little corner, and to heck with them. Let them do what they want to do. And that may be the spirit of some of our people, because our enemies have taught us what they wanted us to learn. They wanted us to learn JC. They wanted us to learn that a European died for us, and that a European is our Savior, and the European is the end all and the be all, and that we are absolutely nothing but scum. That's what they wanted us to learn. They wanted us to learn that we were not important. They wanted us to learn that we were not special. They wanted us to learn that they are more special, and their lives have preference over ours. They wanted us to learn all of these things. And when they wanted us to learn it, they taught it to us. And nothing our enemies have given us has been to our benefit, nor will it ever be to our benefit. Nothing that they have given us. All that our enemies have given us, that have taught us and instructed us, are to his own benefit. And we are to be mindful of these things. So we must teach that which we want others to learn. That includes the house of Israel, as well as the stranger that is of a contrite spirit. So we cannot sit back and allow our people to walk off of a cliff. If we see a man doing something that's going to bring harm towards his house and towards his own soul, he may not even be aware that what he's doing is incorrect. Until someone teaches him, he does not know. In many cases, what the house of Israel is doing or are doing, it's being done in ignorance. They do not know. They were not taught. They are unlearned. And this is why we must pick up this mantle and we must teach, irregardless of the opposition that we may face. The Most High will strengthen us to deal with such opposition, but we must first get on our job. So Moshe is saying here that, the people is not going to believe him. Let's move down to verse 10 of the same chapter. Exodus chapter 4, we will read verse 10 through verse 15. And verse 10 of Exodus chapter 4 reads, And Moses said unto Yah, O my strong one, O my strength, I am not eloquent, neither heretofore, nor since thou hast spoken unto thy servant, but I am slow of speech and of a slow tongue. So Moshe is making all types of excuses. These people are not going to believe me. I'm not of eloquent speech. I have a slow tongue, etc., etc., etc. He is looking at all of his faults, trying to evade his purpose. Verse 11, And Yah said unto him, Who hath made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb, or deaf, or the seeing, or the blind? Have not I Yah? So the Most High is letting Moshe know, because Moshe is trying to make excuses not to get this job done. He's saying, well, I don't want to go talk to these people because my speech is not eloquent. I have a slow tongue. I'm not quick with my words. And the Most High is letting him know, I will strengthen you by which to do this job. However, Moshe is looking for an out. Verse 12, now therefore go, and I will be with thy mouth, and teach thee what thou shalt say. Once again, the Most High wanted us to learn his words, to learn his law. There's no way we can learn it if he doesn't teach it to us. And once we have been taught that, now it's our job to teach it to other Israelites. And then we teach it to all the nations of the earth. But in order for us to teach it, we must first learn it. You cannot teach that which you do not know. That is why it's imperative that we read every day, that we remain sharp in this law. Because if you're going to teach, you have to know exactly what you're teaching. Knowing it becomes easier once you're living it. Okay? So Moshe, once again, the Most High is letting him know that he will teach Moshe exactly what he has to say. Verse 13. And he said, O my strength, send, I pray thee, by the hand of him whom thou wilt send. Verse 14. And the anger of Yah was kindled against Moses, and he said, is not Aaron the Levite thy brother? I know that he can speak well. And also, behold, he cometh forth to meet thee, and when he seeth thee, he will be glad in his heart. Because Moses is trying to say, well, send someone else. Most High is getting a bit irate with Moshe because he's telling him that he will strengthen him, yet Moshe is a bit shaken and will not say, yeah, I will do what you're commanding me to do. And if you're saying that you're going to be with me, then okay, let's go. That's not his position. Moshe is still trying to find a way not to do this thing. And the Most High is beginning to lose patience with him. Verse 15. And thou shalt speak unto him, and put words in his mouth. And I will be with thy mouth, and with his mouth, and will teach you what ye shall do. So once again, teach them what you want them to learn and know. The Most High wanted Moshe to know something. He wanted him to learn something, so therefore he taught it to him. And if we want our people to understand that they are a special people, if we want our people to understand that we are the chosen people, chosen to bring forth the praise of the Most High, chosen to uphold the standards of the Most High, chosen to walk in the laws of the Most High, chosen to teach his laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts to all the people of the earth. We have to teach our people that so they may know it. We have to teach these nations, these foul nations, that so that they may know it. Until we step up and do that, they will continue to believe that a European has died for them and raised up in 3 days and is going to take them up into heaven. That's what they're going to believe until you decide to take up your mantle or take up this mantle and teach the Most High's laws you were commanded to, and not to make any excuses for it. To come before the people and deliver this message in truth and in righteousness, and not fleece them for any money, not to blow any smoke at them, to simply deliver this word that they may be able to decipher it and let them make a choice on which way they will go. You will either serve the Most High and live, don't serve him and die. Those are your choices. But we are to present this information to them And the only way that they're going to learn it, the man of Israel has to stand up and teach it. So I hope that is clear. Let's move to Exodus. We're still in verse 4. Let's move to, we're still in chapter 4, excuse me. Let's move to verse 19. Verse 19 of Exodus chapter 4. And verse 19 reads, And Yah said unto Moshe in Midian, Go, return into Egypt, for all the men are dead which sought thy life. So we must understand, in the midst of these nations, the men of these nations seek our life. They will kill us in broad daylight. So we must understand that those who seek the life of the Most High's people, they will be recompensed. Their ways will be returned upon their own head. So these men that sought the life of Moshe, Moshe being the Most High servant, these men were dead that sought to kill Moshe. And guess who killed them? The Most High removed them to make a path for Moshe to deliver his people. So to all these nations that are killing my people, and to all these European nations, these people, and Europeans, Arabs, and others who are dealing with my people in an unrighteous manner, do understand that all of your ways and all of your doings will be returned upon your own head. And if it's not returned upon your head in this generation, it will be turned upon your head in the next generation, i.e. your children. So do understand, when you as a European, you are placed in the jury box, you and a bunch of unrighteous other Europeans with you, and you decide to let another European off for murdering one of God's people, I want you to understand, for your unrighteousness, there's a penalty for that. And that penalty is your life and the life of your children, generations down the line. So you have to understand that the Most High will turn his face against you and against your house for unrighteousness. That goes for the Israelite and the non-Israelite. So this goes out to the Israelites as well as the non-Israelites. Any action that is unrighteous will not go unchecked. It will not go unanswered. And I'm saying that you may be aware of everything that you say and everything that you do. For your words have weight, and so does your actions. So don't do anything that's going to cause the Most High to turn his face against you and against your house. To see a man being murdered and for you to turn a blind eye to it after you know this man is a murderer, and to turn your face away from that and to let him off the hook as an unrighteous thing. And we have seen this time and time again in the judicial system here in America. Unrighteous people in the jury box, unrighteous people in the courtroom, unrighteous people in the nation as a whole. And none of this is going unpunished. Absolutely none of it. So we are to be mindful of all of these things when we're making our decisions pertaining to righteousness and justice or judgment. All right. So they sought to kill Moses. The Most High removed them. And just as they're seeking to kill us, scattered in the diaspora, have done all types of things to kill us, poison our water, inoculate us with all types of crazy vaccinations, lock us up, shoot us down. They're doing all that they can to kill God's people. And they don't even think of that. They don't even think, what is the ramifications what is going to happen to us for all that we have done to these people who have done us no harm. That's the part that's important. We have not sought to kill Europeans. We have not done it. And in spite of their treatment towards us, we still have not done it. So what they're doing is unjust. And many of them are aware that it's unjust. And there are a few that will stand up to this unrighteousness, for there are a few that will turn with their whole heart and their whole soul towards the laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts of the Most High, and will take a hold of a man of Israel and walk with him, for they will learn and they will know that the Most High is with us. So you're going to see a portion of them that will take a hold of this covenant. So do not believe for a second that all of them are wicked. The vast majority of them are and mean our people absolutely no good. But at the same time, there's a vast majority of our people who mean our people no good. So we have enemies on both sides of the fence. Now let's go ahead and move to, let's stay in verse 4, or chapter 4. Let's move down to, we will read verse 24. Verse 19 through 24. We've read 19 where the Most High has killed all those who sought after Moses and sought to kill him. The Most High removed them to make a way for Moshe to deliver his people. So we will read down from verse 19 all the way to verse 24. We've read verse 19 already. Let's go to verse 20. And Moshe took his wife and his sons and set them upon an ass and returned to the land of Egypt. And Moshe took the rod of Yah in his hand. And Yah said unto Moses, when thou goest to return into Egypt, see that thou do all these wonders before Pharaoh, which I have put in thine hand. But I will harden his heart, that he shall not let the people go. Our people are in these nations currently experiencing all manner of hardship, and we are crying out for justice. We're crying out for peace. There can be no justice and there can be no peace unless you're walking within the law, statutes, judgments, and precepts of the Most High. For his law brings forth peace. So provided that we are not in this law, we can march all day and we can cry out no justice, no peace all day. It will serve us no purpose. It will not work. So we're seeing here that our people are crying out. However, there is no response in this crying out unless we do it in the manner that we're instructed to. And that is that we are to walk in the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts. As we cry out, many of us are crying out to our enemies. We're not crying out to the Most High. So when we cry out to our enemies will simply harden their position against us. When we ask for reparations, they're going to tell you flat out no. They're going to double down on their position. We're trying to ask our enemies, those who do not know righteousness, those who do not know justice, those who do not know equity. We continue to ask people for something that they do not possess. This seems to be our problem and continues to be our problem. So their position is going to be hardened against us, just like Pharaoh's position was hardened against us. And the reason why the Most High is hardening our enemies against us is because he's going to destroy them. It's really that simple. Verse 22. And thou shalt say unto Pharaoh, thus saith Yah, Israel is my son, even my firstborn. Now, this reiterates the fact that we are the sons and daughters of the living God, of the true and living creator of the earth. We have to teach this, that our people may know this. We have to teach this, that the people of the nations may know this. If we do not, how else will they know? The European has taught something contrary to this. The European has taught that God's people is everyone. The European has taught that God's son is someone named JC, who they portray as a European. They have taught us all that they wanted us to know. And all that they have taught us is destructive to us and a hindrance to us and a snare onto us. So now what we must do, we must teach our people and the nations what we want them to learn. Not just that we want them to learn it, the Most High wants us to learn it. And we have been ordained to teach it. So what we have to do, we have to undo the wrongs. We have to correct the errors of our ways. And the way you learn how to correct your errors, someone have to teach you that it's an error in the first place. And so therefore we need our leaders. We need the men of Israel, who in whose heart the Most High law is. We need them to step up and teach this word. Now I know some of you may not have been stellar citizens. You may not have been outstanding citizens in times past. You may have done some things that's just flat out foul. And the people around you remember when you were foul. And so you may be thinking that with my past, I can't possibly teach this word. Now, if you understand the Most High's law, statutes, judgments, and precepts and how it works, then certainly, even if you have a quote unquote checkered past, provided you didn't murder anyone and you weren't a pedophile or something disgusting like that, you can step forth and teach the Most High's word. And if you are walking in that righteousness, those past sins will be forgotten and washed away and wiped away. And you will live now in your righteousness, provided you don't turn back to your folly like a dog to his vomit. So do not be concerned with, I have a checkered past. How can I come before this people and teach that which is right? If you're living that which is right, you certainly can teach that which is right, for that is the best example of it. So do not be concerned with a checkered past if that is what if you have one, a criminal record or something of the sort. You just have to conform to order. That is all you have to do. You have to turn back from wickedness and return unto the Most High's righteousness and live therein going forward. And the Most High will strengthen you. And those sins of your past will not even be mentioned to you. So do not let past discretions discourage you from picking up this mantle. Next, a word of encouragement to those who may be preachers and teachers and idolaters in these Christian church houses. There are people here, I'm certain, that are of the quote unquote clergy that are teaching JC and all of this other Roman nonsense and have come across the words of the Most High. And they understand that this JC thing is a lie. They understand that they're in the house of idol worship. They understand that they are the sons and daughters of Jacob. They understand now how to pray. They understand that our people have been led astray. And they're in a position that's troubling them. They're in the church. That's all they know. That's where their family is. That's where their relationship is. That's where they were raised. But on the other hand, they know all of that. They have come to the understanding that all that they held dear to their heart and believed in all the people that they care about, they're all walking in a direction that they're not supposed to go. And so now that pastor that has become awakened and the Most High has poured out his spirit upon him, he has a decision to make. How do I take this information that I have been allowed to see, that I've been allowed to learn? How do I deliver it to this people and not lose them? How do I deliver it to them and still pay my bills if you're the pastor of the place? Because if you deliver the words of the Most High to these people in truth and in righteousness, these people are rebellious people anyway. Israel is a rebellious house. How now do I teach them that which is right in a manner that they may even accept it and not reject it and ultimately reject me? This is the position of some in the clergy, that they know what is right and they're trying to figure out a way of how do I teach these people that which is right and not lose them, and also not lose myself in the midst of all of this. So if you're a pastor, a layman, a preacher, a reverend, or one of those, and you have come across this truth, and now you're trying to think of how to bring it to these people in a manner or in a way that they may accept it, and you may be concerned with them rejecting you and all of that, they're going to reject you. They're going to reject that word that you're going to bring to them in truth and in righteousness, because our people want them to speak, want us to speak to them smooth things, smooth lies, deceit. Once you bring the truth to them straight up the middle, they're going to reject you for it because they've been lied to for so long. Lies are comforting unto them. It's a comfort unto them to hear a lie, and the truth is somehow unsettling to them. But you have backup. You have the Spirit of the Most High with you, like Moshe did, and you have this book of the law by which you can take them directly into it, and you can validate your point with the words of the Most High and his prophets. So if you're in that predicament, you have a leadership role within a church, and now you're torn between, what do I do? Well, what you're to do that which is right. You're to teach the Most High's law in truth and in righteousness to his people, that they may know. And you're not to sugarcoat it in any way, shape, or form. You're to deliver it to them in the manner that you are supposed to. And you can certainly turn to the Most High with your whole heart and your whole soul, and he will place his spirit upon you that you may deliver it in the manner that he would like you to deliver it. And those that are to receive it, they will. And those that will reject it, they will. But you have to deliver it, for that is your job. So do not be fearful of how the people may view you. Do not be fearful of losing your position within the church. If you figured out and you have been blessed to understand what the Most High's truth and what his righteousness is, it's your responsibility to teach it and deliver it to the people. If you lose that clergy position at that idol house of yours, the Most High is going to replace it with something greater and better, for you are a servant unto him. So do not be fearful of these people. Do not be fearful of their words or their deeds, because you will have the Most High with you. So do not be as Moshe and you start worrying about all these other things. Now, I'll say that also to that person that's in such a position. And not only to the clergy that has come across the truth and the righteousness of the Most High, but to the Israelite, the regular man in the street, or to the stranger, the regular man in the street that has come across the words of the Most High and the truth of it all, and understand what it is. And now you're seeking to teach. You're seeking to tell other people and to teach them that which is right. I want you to understand that I'm an adult, so are you, most of you, and a stake is a good thing to us. It's enjoyable, it's pleasurable, it's nice to eat a good steak. But as good as a steak is to an adult, it can choke and kill an infant. And I'm saying that to say this. When you're dealing with the unlearned, when you're dealing with a man that's set in his ways, that's come up in this Roman Catholic Christian church, he has been taught certain doctrines that he has come to believe to be true. Once you decide to tell him something that's contrary to what he has been taught and what he has been told, there will be opposition. So therefore, when you're feeding these infants, you've got to give them mashed potatoes first, smashed peas. You've got to give them bite size, something that they can digest. You throw it all at them all at once, and they will certainly run because this word is fire. So you have to remember when you're dealing with individuals who have been led astray, they have been estranged from the Most High. They have not heard of his fame, not heard of his glory, not heard of his covenant, not heard of his laws, nor do they live in it or walk in it. So you have to spoon feed them. And as you give them a little bit, if they want more, they'll come back. But if you decide to just straight up throw it at them all at once, or you deliver it in a manner that it cannot be received, then you have lost them. So it is a delicate position once you decide to lead. A leader is a teacher, and a teacher is a leader. So once you decide to lead, it must be done with care. And when you deliver the message, it must be delivered to God's people with some form of respect. Meaning, you cannot deliver this message with profanities, because the house of Israel is accustomed to being disrespected anyway, especially by our own people and disrespected by our enemies. So if you understand who these people are, if you understand who our people are, and that they are the people of the Most High, you cannot possibly come to the people of the Most High with disrespect. You can't do it. You just can't do it. Because every time you speak to another Israelite and you do it with profanities, and you do it with perversion, and you do it with disrespect, all you are reinforcing in his mind is that which he was taught and that which you were taught. And that is, you're not worthy of respect. And because you're not worthy of respect, I just talk to you in your kind of way. And you'll talk to me in your kind of way because someone told us that we were not special. Someone told us that our lives don't matter. Someone told us that we are of no importance. So be mindful when you speak to your fellow Israelite how you address him. Do not reinforce that which we were taught, that we are to be disrespected and that nothing matters as it pertains unto us. As you read these scrolls, you'll realize that that's not so. And once you realize that, then you start to treat your fellow Israelite totally differently. And that's important. All right, let's get back to where we were. We read down to Exodus chapter 4, verse 23, where it was made plain that we are the sons and daughters of the Most High. We are his firstborn. Now let me read verse 24. And verse 24 read, and it came to pass by the way and the end that Yah met him and sought to kill him. Moshe simply just wanted to do what he wanted to do and really did not want to take up that mantle and teach. Every man of Israel must understand that that is our purpose. Every life has a purpose. The trees has a purpose. A rat has a purpose. A snake has a purpose. Everything that you see, there's nothing here that's not supposed to be here. The man that's evil and wicked, he's supposed to be here also. Because the Most High is going to make an example of him. He's going to kill him. So the Most High bring forth the destroyer that he may destroy. And then the Most High going to turn around and kill that destroyer. So nothing that you're seeing here does not belong. It all belongs. It all has a purpose. Now what we have to do is to remember what our purpose truly is. And our purpose, along with the purpose of everyone that's breathing, that is to serve the Most High in truth and in righteousness. And once we deviate from that path, then we find ourselves in all types of mess, find ourselves in trouble. So we have to get back on track as far as walking in righteousness. There's nothing in this law that's harmful to any Israelite. There's nothing in this law that's harmful to any man. The law becomes harmful when you go beyond the boundaries of it. That's how you get hurt. But provided that you stay within the confines of these laws, these barriers are your protection. They keep you from going off the rails. All right? So you are to remember that. Now, let's move to verse 28 of the same chapter, Exodus chapter 4. And verse 28 reads, "And Moses told Aaron all the words of Yah, who had sent him, and all the signs which he had commanded him." So Moses told Aaron all that he wanted Aaron to know and learn. Keep in mind, like I've said in times past, that which you are learning is not for your purpose alone. You're learning it that you may teach it to someone else, and they will teach it to someone else. And before you know it, we are all upholding the standard by which to live by. And now when we die, when we pass on, our seed, our offspring, it's the next generation. And they will teach that to the next generation. And so this is a lifelong commitment. Teaching is, nurturing is. And the reason why I personally have taken up this mantle to teach my people and to teach the stranger that is of a contrite spirit, I refuse to stand by knowing what my responsibilities are to my people. You have to understand the problem with our men all across the earth is that they are concerned with their immediate house for the most part. And most of them are not running their houses, their wives are. So many of our men are not in a leadership role in their own house. And the ones that are in a quote unquote leadership role and think that they're leaders, they're leading in the capacity of their enemies. Their enemies have put them in a position and given them a guidebook and say, yeah, I'll let you lead, but you're going to lead under my rules, under my jurisdiction. This is what you can and you can't do. So the man of Israel that's leading is not accustomed to and has not led in righteousness because most of them don't know what that is. So this leadership role becomes very important, especially if we're going to lead our people and we're going to lead them in righteousness. Once we decide to take up that mantle, expect the opposition, expect opposition from the unrighteous Israelite, and certainly we're getting opposition from our enemies either way. But once again, the Most High will strengthen us that when we deal with our enemies within and without, that we may be protected from them and that we may stand before them unfazed by them. And no weapon formed against us shall prosper. That is the man-made weapons as well as the weapons of propaganda. Because as the house of Israel comes before the people, and we teach these laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, you're going to have a bunch of Israelites, sellouts, that's going to come up and try to counter this word. They're going to try to, and try to reiterate Christianity is this and Christianity is that. And it's our enemies that's going to finance them to do this. Our enemy is going to give them all the airtime on their airways. The media is powerful. And so therefore the enemy is going to ensure that we are being taught whatever it is they want us to know. And so therefore we must counteract this by teaching them what we want them to know. But it's not that we want them to know this word. The Most High wants them to know this word. And he wants us to know it. That's why he placed it in our hearts. And it's our job to correct the wrong that's in the earth. The earth is a mess because we have failed to do our part. So I always address the house of Israel first, because unless the house of Israel fix this mess, nothing gets fixed. Because we are the people that's going to bring forth the Most High's praise. No one else. And that is why we are special. And we must reiterate, we must teach that to our people. We have not been taught that we are a special people. We have not been taught that we are God's people. We have not been taught that, hey, you and the light that you shine is going to correct the things in the earth. Now, that's a very powerful position. And truth be told, many of our people can't fathom their importance, can't fathom leading. After all the things that they have seen happen to us, they can't begin to imagine us being the lead of anything. Because in their whole life and in their mind from what they've seen in times past, that is far removed from their imagination, because we have seen so much trouble and been at the bottom for so long, we can't even imagine what it's like to be on top. And no one has ever told us that on top is where we actually belong. And that is the importance of teaching this word, that our people know that being in the bottom is not your place. Someone just told you that. And this is the power of words. If someone tells you you're no good, etc., etc., after a while, you may believe that thing. If you tell a man that he's a king or he's a prince or he's important, he starts acting important, starts talking important, starts carrying himself in an upright manner. So it's important that we teach this, because once our people understand that they are indeed special, they're going to act special. Special people get special care. So therefore, if we understand a man of Israel is special, I'm going to deal with him different. I'm going to respect him. So these are things that we must ensure that we teach our children. We also have to teach our elders. Notice that Moshe and Aaron were told to gather the elders of Israel. Now, these are older men. A lot of the older men were not called. Moshe is much younger, and so is Aaron and the rest of these men. But they were not called because, for the most part, the elders have led the young people astray. It's the 60 and the 70-year-old man that's in the church that's gotten his head busted all through the 60s and seen our people beaten up, locked up, killed, and murdered throughout his whole entire life. And this same man is going to come before his people and teach them that some JC died for them and not to harm their enemies and a whole bunch of other things that is contrary to that which he has seen all through his life. and what's before him. So the elders were not given that opportunity to be called to lead the people, because the elders are the ones that led the people astray in the first place. So for the most part, you're going to see the young people turn to this law, because the young people are going to see where what the elders have done in times past has not served them well, and that it has failed, and that our grandparents who were worshiping JC in and out of these idol houses were broken in spirit, and they pined away in these nations, and the Most High showed them absolutely no favor. And as the young people see this, and they see their fathers and their uncles and their brothers murdered before their very eyes, and they see these unrighteous Europeans in the jury box let these murderers go, it's going to be clear to this new generation that they have been led astray, and thus they will seek for answers. And when you seek the Most High, you're going to find them. So it's going to take these young people with this spirit of the Most High that's going to take a new direction, that's going to help raise up the people of Israel all throughout the earth. And it's happening more and more each and every day. Now, you can read Exodus chapter 5. You can read all of it. That way you can see exactly how the Pharaoh oppressed us, and exactly how the taskmasters, how we had Israelites who were doing our enemies' bidding, and how we sought to go and serve the Most High, but we were denied. Okay, how we had to make brick without straw. How the Egyptian Pharaoh and the Egyptians, the more we sought after the Most High, the more they increased our burdens, because they were in opposition to the Most High. So as we begin to seek after the Most High, these nations are going to turn against us. And the more they turn against us, the more the Most High will raise up the heat on them. So now it's a battle of attrition. We've got to stay the course. We've got to walk in the Most High's laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts, and we must teach the people what we want them to know and what we want them to learn, that they may be armed with all the necessary information by which to teach others. Keep in mind, Moshe was one man, but then again, we were in one place. This time it is different. We were scattered to all the nations of the earth. So one man will not get it done this time. The Most High will have to pour out His Spirit upon men, many men, in the many nations. And they will hear this word, and they will pick up this mantle in the many nations, and they will teach this law to the Most High's people and to the stranger that is of a contrite spirit. So we have to teach it. It is your job. Do not sit back and make excuses for why you can't do this. I am not the best orator. I'm not the best reader. There are many of you that's going to read better than I do. Many of you that's going to deliver the message, and you may do it better than I do it. There are people that's going to like your delivery better than they like mine, etc. You are to do your part. But before you decide to get it done, make sure that you are prepared. So don't sit back and wait for the next brother to do it. And then when he does it, you're trying to look at all the possible ways by which to critique him and to attack him, when you do not have the courage to step forth and teach these people because you're afraid. And that's been the spirit of our men, our women too. We don't want to step forward and lead. We don't want to lead these people. I don't want to lead them. Don't make me a leader of these people. But as soon as you make a leader, I'm going to criticize them in every turn. That's what we're doing right now. And we can't. We have to assist our leaders that's going to lead in righteousness and in truth. And when we start to do these things, the better off we will be. So I would like to reiterate to the man of Israel that's scattered to the four corners of the earth. Your purpose is to bring forth the most righteous praise, the most high's praise. You're to bring forth his righteousness. You're to teach this covenant. You're to teach the laws, statutes, judgments, and precepts. You are also to do it. You are to live it. This is your purpose. And once we return back onto our purpose, then we will be restored and returned back on high. We are to lead these nations. Us being at the bottom of the barrel, being shot by these Europeans, hung by them, killed by them, lied upon and set up by them, and all these other things. Not just Europeans. These other nations are doing it too. They're all in cahoots. We're in a position that we're not supposed to be. And we can certainly fix it if we would just turn back. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Peace, Israel, and remember, you are to teach this word. I am certain that you have benefited from these videos. I certainly pray that you do. And certainly you can share this word anywhere and with anyone that you feel may need it. And those who are seeking this word, they will find it. If not here, they will find it someplace else. But we have to teach it. Do not sit back and say, well, I'm just going to let this brother do it. I'm only one man. You have to do your part. You have to start your videos. You have to start teaching. And when you do not fleece your people for any money. And when you do, you are to have compassion upon them, because the people of the nations have not shown our people any compassion. Many of the house of Israel have not shown our people any compassion. So once we decide to deal with these damaged, hurt, neglected people, who are also rebellious, by the way, you have to keep all of this in mind once you understand the history of our people throughout the earth and what has happened to them. They're fragile, and we have to deal with them with care, with righteous care. Once again, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. Peace, Israel. We must teach the people, our people first, then the people of the nations, what we want them to know and what we want them to learn. Do not sit back and wait on someone else to do it. Man of Israel, this is your job. This is your charge. You are to do it. Peace, Israel, and Yah bless. And also peace to the stranger that is of a contrite spirit, that will take a hold of the Most High's covenant and will do it. Peace and Yah bless.